booth smelled like coffee and old carpet. I'd been on air since midnight, slouched in the cracked leather chair, my long hair brushing the mic whenever I leaned too close. Most nights were the same. Song requests, drunks oversharing, couples calling in to argue with me as their referee. Tonight was supposed to be no different. Then the alert hit. The tone sliced through the feed, a sound so sharp it rattled my teeth. On my screen, bold white text scrolled across in blocky government font. Emergency alert. Lock your doors. I blinked, waited for the usual test disclaimer. But it never came. The phone lines exploded. Every light on the board lit up at once. A Christmas tree of panic. I picked one at random. A man's voice boomed in, already angry. Kid, you're live, yeah? You tell us what the hell this means. Is it real? Is it another scare? Before I could answer, another line forced itself through. Shaky, almost crying. Please tell me it's fake. My kids are asking me. The switchboard kept blinking, more and more voices piling on top of each other. I adjusted my headset, forcing calm into my tone. Folks, just stay inside. That's the safest move right now. We don't have full details yet, but even as I said it, I glanced at the booth window. Fog pressed up against the glass, so thick it looked painted on. Street lamps glowed dim and smudged outside, shapes bending in the haze. I told myself it was nothing, just weather, but the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I tried to steady my breathing. Don't make it worse. Don't let them hear you panic. A third caller broke through, voice low, urgent. You're the only one talking, son. TV's dead. My neighbors' radios are dead. Just you. Everyone's listening. I swallowed. 10,000 people leaning in on the other side of the static, waiting for me to decide if they should believe the words on the screen. I brushed my hair back, eyes flicking again to the fog. For half a second, I thought I saw movement. Not a shape, not even a shadow, just pressure, like something was leaning in from the other side. I told myself it was nothing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the booth window wasn't just reflecting the fog anymore. It was holding something out. The calls stacked up faster than I could answer. 10,000 people waiting, begging for me to give them the truth. I stared at the monitor, at the block letters that hadn't changed. Emergency alert. Lock your doors. My throat felt dry, but I pressed the mic anyway. I don't know if this is a drill, I said, voice steady, but nothing about it looks normal. Stay inside. Lock your doors. Don't wait for someone to tell you it's okay. Because right now it's not. There was silence for half a beat. Then voices poured through. One caller's voice shook. I can't see the street anymore. It's all fog. But I swear someone's out there. Just standing still. Another cut in, frantic. The TV's dead. The phones are dead. Only you're broadcasting. Why just you? I leaned back, hair falling across my face, red eyes catching the faint reflection in the glass. I didn't have answers, but I wasn't going to lie. If you're hearing this, it means someone wants us connected. That's all I can say. I looked past the reflection and into the night outside the booth. The fog pressed heavier against the glass, thick enough to blur the glow of the street lamp. For a moment, it looked like the lamppost was bending under some unseen weight. A man's voice cracked through the line. My neighbor's knocking on my door. He's smiling, but he hasn't blinked in 5 minutes. Should I let him in? I gripped the mic tighter. No, don't open it. Don't open for anyone tonight. Static hissed, swallowing the man's reply. The red words flashed again across the monitor, almost like it was answering me. This is not a test. I leaned closer to the glass, and for a second, I swore I saw a palm press against it from the outside. No sound, no movement after, just the faintest smear, like someone had been there and pulled away. I didn't sugarcoat it. I clicked the mic live again. Whatever's out there, my voice caught, but I forced it out. It's real, and it's already moving through the streets. The lines erupted into chaos. Screams, prayers, questions I couldn't answer. And still, the fog thickened against the booth window. The switchboard was chaos. 10,000 voices trying to claw their way through a single thread of static. One voice cut clear, a woman whispering like she was afraid of being overheard. "Why are you the only one broadcasting? Every other station's gone. TV's gone. Even police scanners are nothing but static. Why you?" Her words hung heavy in the booth. I glanced at my reflection in the glass. Red eyes staring back, hair a mess, pale skin under the hum of the fluorescent lights. I'd asked myself the same question. My hands hovered over the console. This studio wasn't special. The equipment was outdated, secondhand. Nothing that should have kept it alive when the rest of the city went dark. Unless I caught myself staring at my hands, at the faint marks on my skin I'd always chalked up to childhood scars, at the way the fog outside didn't seem to press as heavy when I looked at it. "I don't know," I said finally, my voice live across the city. "Maybe the system wants me here, or maybe—" I hesitated, throat tightening. "Maybe I'm the only one it can't shut down." The booth went silent except for the low hiss of static. Then another caller, frantic. My neighbor's coughing blood, screaming about the signal in his head. "Why aren't you screaming too? Why aren't you affected?" I froze. A cold pulse ran through me. My reflection in the glass didn't blink when I did. The air in the booth grew heavier, like the fog outside was leaking through the cracks. The phones still blinked, but I ignored them. Something was wrong with the glass. The faint handprint I'd seen earlier hadn't faded. It had multiplied. 5, 10, dozens, all pressed flat against the outside of the window. No sound, just the weight of them waiting. I stood, the chair creaking behind me. My long hair hung in my eyes as I checked the door. It had no lock, just a flimsy latch meant to keep interns out during a show. The kind of door that could never hold back what was breathing outside. I grabbed a mic stand, jammed it under the knob, bracing it against the desk. My hands shook, but my voice didn't when I went back live. "They're here too," I said, staring at the window. Right outside the booth. The switchboard crackled with overlapping voices. "What do they look like? Are they human? Are they inside with you?" I didn't answer. My eyes burned, a pulse deep in the sockets. I leaned closer to the glass, and for the first time, the shapes outside moved back. Just an inch, just enough to notice. I froze. My reflection glared at me from the glass, those red eyes burning hotter than the exit sign above the booth door. The phones erupted again. Someone screaming, "Your voice! It hurts them! Do you hear it? Whatever you are, it's not just human." I tore off the headset. My pulse thundered. Outside the window, the handprints smeared lower, dragging away into the fog like the things pressing against the glass had recoiled. For a moment, silence. Then a pounding at the booth door, hard enough to shake the mic stand braced against it. I didn't sugarcoat it. I clicked the mic live again, speaking straight into the ears of 10,000 listeners. "They know I'm not like you," I said, "and now they want in." The pounding at the booth door stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Silence seeped in, broken only by the faint hum of equipment. My chest rose and fell like I just sprinted a mile. I turned my eyes back to the glass. The fog had thinned just enough to make out the shapes more clearly, and I wished it hadn't. They weren't human, not even close. Their limbs bent the wrong way, joints bulging like broken marionettes. Their skin, if it could even be called that, hung in strips, gray and wet, clinging like paper to bone. Faces stretched too long, mouths opening wider than they should, teeth glistening in rows that didn't stop. And those eyes, burning red, staring straight at me. I leaned into the mic, voice low, sharp. "Don't let your kids near the windows. Don't even let them listen if you can help it. No child should see what's out there." The phone lines went dead quiet. No questions, no static, just thousands of people frozen on the other end. I pressed harder. "They don't look human. Not anymore. If you hear a knock and it sounds like someone you love, don't answer. It's not them. It's never them." As I spoke, the creatures outside pressed their faces closer to the glass. Skin split at the seams, teeth grinding against the window. They weren't backing away this time. They were listening. My eyes burned again, that pulse behind them sharper now, like fire crawling through my skull. The reflection staring back at me looked almost alive, eyes glowing faintly brighter than the ones outside. And for a moment all the creatures froze. Not moving, not breathing, just waiting. I swallowed hard, flicked the mic switch down, and said into the dead air, "They can hear me." The thing about instinct is it doesn't wait for permission. I was watching them, too close, too many of them, when it happened. 1 second the booth was the same humming box of glass and plastic. The next, a pressure rolled through my skull like the bass from a subway train. It started behind my eyes, a heat that wasn't heat, a prickle that crawled down my neck and landed heavy in my chest. My reflection in the window changed first. Something like film lifted from the surface. My irises. I could see it now, impossibly clear, caught and held the light. Not a normal shine. A soft, pulsing ember that spread out from the center, like embers swallowing a lantern. The booth lights flickered in rhythm with it. I didn't tell myself to do anything. I didn't have time to think. The sound came, or maybe it was a feeling that turned into sound. A low, deep hum that vibrated the metal of the mic stand and tasted like pennies on my tongue. It moved outward from me in waves I could feel in my molars. Outside the glass the creatures jerked. Heads snapped away, shoulders hunched. Some of them sagged to their knees as if the air had gone thin. One pressed its forehead so hard to the window the skin cracked and left a smear of something dark. But even then it didn't pull back. Only trembled, like a thing trying to listen through a thunderclap. A caller cut through the static, voice strangled. What did you just do?" "My radio, my ears." Her words dissolved into choking. Another line hissed, someone moaning, "It hurts, my head, turn it off." Then the calls went dead, one by one, a dozen phones dropping silent as if the city had been unplugged. I staggered back, hands on the console, trying to steady the world that had blurred at the edges. My heart was a jackhammer. My vision shimmered and then cleared, and the ember in my irises dimmed like a wick being buried. My reflection was normal again, halfway normal. But when I looked closer, there were thin cracks at the corners of my eyes, wet like condensation. I tasted iron and something else I couldn't name. A faint ringing stayed behind the hum, like the afternote of a bell. I tried to speak and my voice was small in the room. Did anyone else hear that? I forced the words out to the open mic. On the other end, a trembling man answered, whispering as if ashamed. "Yeah, my dog's under the bed. He won't come out. He's shaking. You made something, stop. The word was wrong and only partly true. Outside, beyond the window, the fog thinned around the forms. They weren't fleeing. They were listening to where the sound had come from, if that was what it was, and they were confused. Angrier when they understood nothing. Patient when they did. I rubbed my eyes and they burned bright again for a second, like a camera adjusting focus. My hands came away with the faint scent of ozone on them. I felt strange, hungrier in my throat, like I'd swallowed cold metal. My skin hummed where the mic had rubbed my palm raw. I started, then stopped. I had no language for what just happened. Not yet. Not while 10,000 people were probably rearranging their furniture into barricades and listening for the one voice they still trusted to tell them whether to live. The hut of sound inside my head cooled. The creatures resumed pressing to the glass. Less frantic now but closer. Nose ridges almost flattened against the cold. One of them lifted its head and looked straight at me. Not with hunger this time, but with a kind of calculation that made the hair on my arms stand up. I could feel things shifting, like the room was the center of a line drawn in the dirt and something big was deciding whether to cross it. I turned the mic off with a hand that didn't feel like mine and whispered into the dead feed, to no one and to everyone. I don't know what that was either, but it did something. Don't open the door. Don't, whatever you do, don't bring a child to the window. Behind me, the emergency ticker blinked in heavy white letters as if the machine itself was catching up. This is not a drill. Do not expose children. I sat down hard. My eyes stung, and when I reached up to wipe them, my fingers came away with a smear that looked like rust. The ringing in my ears was the only proof left that something had happened. The rest of it, the heat, the hum, the ember glow, sat like a secret behind my ribs, and for the first time I realized that whatever I was, whatever I'd been made to be, it was waking up without asking me first. The air in the booth felt wrong now, like static clinging to the back of my throat. I pushed the chair back, the wheels squealing against the tile, and just stared at the console lights flickering. The calls were dead. 10,000 listeners still tuned in, but the silence felt heavier than any crowd roar I'd ever felt on air. I leaned toward the mic, not sure if I wanted to speak, not sure if I should. My reflection in the window wavered, doubled by the glare. For a moment, I swore it wasn't me looking back. Same long hair, same pale face, but the eyes were alive, glowing faintly like embers banked in ash. And then bang, something slammed the booth door. The handle rattled hard. My spine froze. It wasn't them outside the glass. It was something inside the building. I grabbed the steel stool and jammed it under the knob, locking it tight. The pounding came again, heavy, deliberate. Open up. The voice was warped, deeper than it should have been. Not a monster's guttural shriek. No, it sounded almost human. Almost. I backed toward the console, my heartbeat punching through my ribs. The windows rattled as more creatures pressed against the glass. Their red eyes flared like sparks in the fog. I couldn't let them in, not through the door, not through the glass. The emergency ticker clacked alive on its own again. The letters crawled across the display, jittering, half-broken. Do not respond to the voice. It is not human. My breath hitched. Whoever or whatever was at the door pounded once more, harder. The stool legs screeched but held. And then my eyes burned. Instinct again, no thought, no control. A pulse of heat radiated out of me, sharper than last time. My vision cut red, and the hum came back. Louder, hungrier. The window glowed faintly, as if the glass itself was vibrating with my heartbeat. The creatures outside reeled. One dropped to its knees, clawing at its head, its skin splitting at the seams. Another slammed its palms against the glass so hard they split open, black blood smearing down. Their mouths opened, but no sound came out, like my voice had stolen theirs. From the speaker, a child screamed. Not outside, inside the broadcast. A listener. Turn it off. Please. My baby can't stop crying. She's bleeding from her nose. The line cut to static. I staggered back, choking on my own breath. My hands shook violently. What the hell was I doing? My voice, my presence, wasn't just hurting them out there. It was hurting the people still listening. The pounding on the door stopped. Slowly, as if the thing had changed its mind. A silence crept into the hall, the kind of silence that feels like it's staring at you. I gripped the mic with both hands and leaned in, my voice low, shaking but steady. They don't look human. They're not. Don't let your children near the glass. Don't let them listen too long. You need to understand this, whatever this is. It's not going away. The governments, the politicians, they knew. They've left us with this. We're on our own now. The words came out raw, harsh, cutting. My red eyes flickered again, and through the glass, every single creature froze. And for the first time, they bowed their heads. They bowed. Not the clawed lean of defeat. Something colder, more formal. Dozens of bent heads pressed to the glass like a congregation before an altar. One of them lifted a hand, fingers splayed, and tapped the window with a slow, deliberate rhythm, like a metronome counting out something only it understood. My chest went hollow. The ember in my eyes flared without asking me, and with it came a slip of memory I hadn't known was mine. A white room, fluorescent buzzing. A woman in a blue lab coat smiling across a stainless steel table. A needle. A name scrawled on a clipboard. Subject, Red 7. And a voice saying, "We have a transmitter." The memory hit like a fist and then scattered like ash on my tongue. I staggered back from the glass. The creatures didn't surge. They simply waited, patient as judges. Their red eyes didn't burn now. They searched. It felt like they were reading something in me, looking for the part that belonged to them. On the console, The dead lights blinked with impatience. I reached for the mic and then stopped. Every time I'd let my voice out in force, it had pulled and pushed at the city like a tide, hurting people I should be saving. I realized with a cold clarity, I was a weapon whether I wanted to be or not. A caller's faint voice crackled through the line, half silenced, whispering like a prayer. "Stay, please stay with us. We need you." 10,000 fragile pleas hanging in the air. I could feel them through the headphones I'd torn off, felt them like a weight on my shoulders. But the lab memory came back harder, threaded with another image. Men in suits with hollow eyes nodding over charts. A date on a file. A location. Something about immunity and about broadcasting. The implication was ugly and sharp. I hadn't been born this way. I had been made. "Turn it off," I told myself and slammed the mic mute. The feed went dead. A dozen calls dropped like ropes cut loose. Silence fell, but it felt heavier now, like someone had filled the room with a slow, watching air. Outside, the bowed heads rose slowly. One creature pressed its forehead to the glass and closed its eyes, as if listening for a lullaby it expected but couldn't hear. The tapping stopped. A soft knock came at the booth door. 3 light taps, almost polite. Not the heavy pounding from before. A human rhythm. My breath shortened. Whoever was on the other side knew my name. I could feel it like static along my skin. "Marcus," someone whispered, a voice older and worn with travel. "Marcus, open up. We thought you were." The name landed in me like a splinter. It wasn't a stranger. It was a key. I crouched low, palms flat on the console, eyes stinging. If I opened the door, I risked bringing whatever was out there into the hallway, into the city. If I kept it shut, people would keep listening to nothing, waiting for instructions that might kill them when I gave them. My throat tightened. The ember in my eyes cooled to a dull glow. For the first time, the truth arrived fully and without mercy. I could be their weapon, their beacon, or their walking death. I could be the bridge between the things outside and the people inside their homes. I didn't have a plan. I only had a choice. I reached for the mute button again and, with a voice smaller than the hum in my head, spoke into the dead air of my empty booth. "I'm not a savior. I'm not sure I'm human. But I'm not going to let them in." Behind the door, the voice whispered his name once more, desperate and raw. Outside, something shifted in the fog, like a decision being made. I braced my shoulder against the door and let the chair squeal. The red letters on the ticker crawled like a warning. "Do not trust the voice if it seeks entry." I had to buy time. For the listeners. For myself. For whatever was left of whatever I used to be.